and welcome to Chicago Reacts. My name is Lauren, and today I am looking at a video by Bizlychannel. This one is the weirdest Resident Evil game. I'm excited to find out what it is. I forgot to put my headband back on. But anyway, so it looks like 7 maybe is what he's telling me about. I don't know. I enjoy the Resident Evil franchise. I think it's a lot of fun. I have only played like 3/4 of one game because I played part of Resident Evil 2 and I've played part of Resident Evil 5. We're still playing through that one. It's not done, but I've seen Let's Plays of a whole bunch of them and I enjoy that story. I think it's fun. I think it's interesting. And I'm curious to see what Bizly here is going to tell me the weirdest game is. And also, pourquoi is it the weirdest game? It's a longer video, but that's okay. I'm interested, and I hope you're intrigued as well. Let's go.
When Resident Evil 7 came out, it blew people away with its strong emphasis on horror, focused narrative, and overall departure from what fans had come to expect. This set a new precedent for the series and left people wondering how they were going to follow it up. And when Resident Evil 8 finally came out, it became clear that they did not keep any of that. Instead of leaning into survival horror, they just made it as weird as possible, adding in werewolves, hot vampires, and a big tubby guy that follows you around all the time. If you're looking for a live action actor, hit me up. Now, at first I didn't really like this, but as I progressed through the game and let go of what I wanted it to be, I started to appreciate it for what it truly is, which is a very weird, but very good Resident Evil game.
I think Village is interesting, honestly, and also watching Markiplier just simp over Lady Dimitrescu. Always very, very fun. I love watching him simp over Lady Dimitrescu. He's the biggest fan. Also, they definitely like changed the they leaned heavy into her in the marketing for that game, and I feel like they could have delivered a little bit more on that. Seen more of her than maybe the fish guy. That would have been nice. Village. Oh, you know what? I've actually never noticed how the the titling on either 7 or 8, how like they use the titles for it. That's really cool. I never noticed that. Also, I do want to say I am appreciating Bizly's his editing. I like how he's inserted himself into the game. He is a little too tall for this room that he's created, but that's okay.
Boy Ethan Winters, 3 years after the Baker family incident of Resident Evil 7. In the 3 years since then, Ethan and his wife Mia had a child together named Rose, a beautiful little baby girl. It's a peaceful evening in the Winters household, and Mia is making dinner while Ethan takes Rose upstairs and puts her to sleep. Now, the amount of detail in this house is actually insane. They did not have to go this hard, but they absolutely
really didn't.
They filled each room with realistic clutter, selling the idea that this house is actually lived in by 2 people raising a baby. There are Easter eggs to previous games and items that foreshadow what is to come. An entire photo album filled with pictures and details of their lives since Rose was born. And if you don't feel like, actually playing the game, you can just kick back and watch some TV. Whoa, look at that. It's my other Resident Evil video that I made on Resident Evil 7 that you can go and watch right after this one. You could also go down and subscribe and like. That would be great. If we get like 30,000 likes, I'll make another Resident Evil video. Or maybe not. I don't know. I'm gonna make.
He's really like, he looks like he's in the environment. He's done such a good job.
Whatever I want, but you should still subscribe though. Now, this is one of those things that could be easily overlooked, but when you stop and think about how much effort went into crafting the details in this house, that you're only in for about 5 minutes, by the way.
You're not there long.
Puts into perspective how much care was put into the game. Another thing, and this may not be intentional, but I love that Resident Evil 8 starts you in this warm, homey kitchen, juxtaposing the rotten, bug-infested kitchen of Resident Evil 7. It makes it feel like these characters have finally achieved some semblance of normalcy. Life is good.
Uh-oh.
Everything was going great until Chris Redfield, a recurring Resident Evil character, showed up and filled Ethan's wife Mia with 4,000 bullets. Brother, I think she is dead. And to top it all off, he kidnaps baby Rose right out of her crib. But hang on, I'm sure Chris has got a great explanation for all of this, and he's gonna tell us right now, right, Chris?
Ethan, No.
No, what do you mean by no? Maybe I'm misunderstanding. Is there just...
Oh! Yep. That was a very weird way to start the game, huh? Like, with Chris being like, a psycho. Chris, what are you doing? Are you infected by the mushrooms or whatever?
Now, when I first played this, I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was the dumbest thing they could have done. Seemed like Chris Redfield just got thrown in there for fan service, and frankly, I haven't liked anything they've done with that character since Resident Evil 5. And even that one was a little questionable.
When he
But
punched
really,
a boulder!
The fact that I expect...
We have not gotten to that part yet. I know it's coming. We haven't gotten to the boulder punching yet in our playthrough of that game, but that's basically all I knew about the game going in. It's been fun so far, but boulder punching. Waiting.
Survival horror, and all of this was hilariously stupid. My opinion looking back though, it has fully changed, and as we go through the game, you'll see why. Ethan wakes up to the sound of a phone ringing and wreckage surrounding him. After being knocked out by Chris and his team, Ethan was being transported somewhere, but didn't make it to that destination as the convoy crashed. And in classic Resident Evil fashion, the only way forward is through a dark, creepy forest.
Of course.
It's clearly a path not commonly traveled as the trees are bundled closely together. This, along with the intense fall off of your flashlight, makes the forest feel eerily claustrophobic. And this scene may feel a little familiar to those of you who've played Resident Evil 7 and 4, as both of those games start off pretty much the exact same way. Just in 7,
I didn't know that about
the
4.
Netflix goes to Mexico filter. And the similarity while yes, Resident Evil 8 is a direct continuation of the story from Resident Evil 7, it is also a spiritual successor to Resident Evil 4. This being reflected mostly in the atmosphere and overall tone. And the horror...
Yeah, and I think that is where like the Duke, the merchant guy, I think he quotes the salesman or whatever, the merchant from 4, I think, as well.
Horror from 7 has been dialed back in favor of something more fantastical that doesn't take itself too seriously. This doesn't mean it isn't scary. As a matter of fact, when this game wants to be scary, it is some of the best horror in the series. The horror is just used sparingly, which, again, at first really left me disappointed. But by the end, I realized this was the best thing they could have done. It made those moments that they did use horror hit so much harder. It's almost like Resident Evil 4 and 7 had a baby, and this is what we got. But I'd say this doesn't become obvious until you squeeze through the cracks in the mountain and first lay your eyes on the village.
Here it is.
The developers wanted to make it feel like you were in this isolated, haunted village, and so they surrounded it with tall, overbearing mountains. As much as I love the atmosphere in the village, I will say it's one of the more generic locations, which kind of sucks that in a game called Village, the village is the least interesting part, but they kind of did that to themselves.
Yeah, you don't really speak too much. You don't really spend too much time in the village. Like in the beginning of the game, you're there, and like you kind of keep going back to it, but like so much of the game is like spread out into other locations a little way away from the village. But yeah, I liked this. I thought this game was interesting in its like, again, not scary, but again, I wasn't actually playing it. I would not have done well playing this game because I'm not good at fighting games, but like, because I'm also terrible at aiming. We're playing multiplayer with the Resident Evil 5 right now. Still, we've been playing this game for like a year and a half. Like, we just don't see each other very often to play it, but like, it's like when the stats come up at the end and it's like I've made 20% of my shots. It's bad.
Evil 4, the game also starts in a village, but that one in Spain. And you get there exactly the same way and do pretty much all the exact same things we're doing here. It was such an iconic location in that game, and the intention here seems to just be rehashing that. Someone's been beating this thing. And I don't know, I just feel like this village is visually kind of flat. A lot of the same colors, nothing really distinguishing between the different houses. There's not a lot you can get from exploring other than just loot. But I do think the village has some great visual storytelling, like this comically large bowl of eggs. It clearly tells the story of someone who dropped a comically large bowl of eggs. The village itself is completely wrecked. It looks like someone got drunk and had a really good time on a tractor.
and also hates goats.
There's
really hates
one
goats.
house left that looks lived in. Oil lamps still lit, food left on the stove, and a bunch of goat skulls on the wall. Now
Oh, this is our goat hater.
our goat hater.
Oh, hey!
No.
There it is. When I make the same jokes, that's how you know that it's a well-scripted video, though. Like, you can kind of tell what's going on.
Friendly.
Who are you? Who sent you?
Nobody. There was an accident down on the road and... What's going on?
That would be terrifying.
They're coming.
Who is? What the hell was that?
Yoink!
What the... Shit!
It turns out this guy doesn't hate goats at all. What he hates is, oh my god, that's a lot of dead bodies. What he hates is werewolves. This is what I'm talking about when I say this is the weirdest Resident Evil game.
Yeah.
This franchise is known for doing some crazy shit, but it generally
it
always
is.
comes back to that traditional zombie storyline, or at least leans more into the traditional horror. But Resident Evil Village is a straight-up monster movie, and the werewolves are just the first taste of that. Technically, they're called Lycans, originally conceptualized as a primitive kind of zombie, but over time became a wild wolfman creature.
Okay.
It's kind of hard.
I always forget that, like, it's because, again, I have limited experience with the Resident Evil everything. I do, link them to zombies. And like, I remember all the jokes that were made when, like, 6 or whatever, I think, was set in Africa, and everyone was like, "Oh yeah, they're gonna be super fast." Like, I remember those jokes when that movie was, or that show came out. Oh my gosh, words. Game came out. Whichever one was the African, whichever one was set in Africa. Oh no, that's this one. That's 5. Either way, I remember the, like, oh, they're gonna be fast jokes. But, like, I guess by the time I started, like, getting actively invested into the Resident Evil, like, lore and everything, I was like, it's because it's not really zombies, so it's like I've managed to, like, conflate, like, all of the games into one, so none of them sounded super strange to me, if that makes sense.
Hard to wrap my head around this direction. Werewolves just seemed like such a cheesy idea, and my immersion really took a hit around this point in the game. It started to feel like a weird dream that Ethan was having, rather than a continuation of his story. That being said, I do think the execution of the Lycans was done very well. The designs were treated with such care that even though conceptually they were kind of corny, they were still pretty scary looking. They also have the most design variety of any enemy in the franchise history.
Oh,
Compare them to previous
that's
enemies
cool.
in the series, and I might say these are the best of the grunt enemies. They have such a vicious energy about them and move in a supernatural way that makes fighting even just one of them
Yeah, they're
very
really
intense.
jerky. Another reason I would never be able to play this game. I could not fight these Lycans.
One thing I really liked that they added was the ability to barricade doors and hide from them rather than fighting. Though locked in this little house, the Lycans begin to surround the building, breaking down the barricades.
Hello. If there are any survivors out there, come to Louiza's house near the fields.
Near the fields? Yeah, thanks for being specific.
Yeah,
Evading
right?
the
That's
Lycans
helpful.
is the best way to deal with them, and there's a couple of ways the game gives you to do so. One is obviously barricading the doors. You also have these underground passages and the overall design of the village that usually has another path that you can sneak through. And also these sacks of
cool.
flour that act as smoke bombs for some reason. Yeah, it's goofy, but I promise.
I mean, it works in The Last of Us, too.
You want to die on. Eventually, though, they will find you, and when they do, you'll notice that they're a lot smarter than the zombies this series is known for. They'll climb roofs to get up to you. Some carry torches and weapons, and they tend to move in packs. So if you see one, odds are there's more around the corner. This section here is just about surviving a certain amount of time as they come at you in hordes.
What an original idea. It's really good. It's just,
I mean,
Wow. As long as you stay.
it is very zombie-esque, though. Like, like, you're complaining that it's not zombie-esque enough, but, like, it's pretty zombie-ish.
away from them though, there is no problem at all. Shit, he
He big.
boy. This is the werewolf boss Urius, once the proud leader of this village. And
Oh,
he's
I
10
forgot
feet
about that.
tall and got a big ass hammer. It's crazy how life goes. If you've ever played Black Ops Zombies, then all those nights training on Kino are about to pay off. You just kind of run in a circle until the cutscene shows up.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I can be an adventurer anymore. The Lycan
You took an arrow to the knee. Boom, boom. I remember that. I remember.
have all coordinated and have you surrounded. But just before they kill you, something calls them away. I'm really not sure what. I don't know what did it. Something did it though. They ran away. I beat the game. I still don't know. I don't know. And in the distance, we see a mysterious hag slowly walking away.
Wait.
I just always assumed it was a Heisenberg thing. Like, or like a Mother Miranda thing. Maybe it was the mycelium or whatever the mushroom thing is called. Like, either way, I just kind of figured it was, they're trying to get Mother Miranda wants Ethan to her, right? Like, so I just kind of assumed that it was in for that, you know, they didn't want the werewolves to kill him, so they called them away, like either Heisenberg or Mother Miranda.
The hag just vaguely talks about someone named Mother Miranda and then walks away ominously. Not exactly the most helpful, but she does give us a clue in telling us that whoever Mother Miranda is, that's who brought Rose here. At this point, the village opens up a little more, allowing you to walk around, discover secrets, find key points to come back to later, and save your game at the iconic typewriter. It may not seem like much if you're not familiar with the series, but the typewriter is a staple for Resident Evil. First introduced in the very first Resident Evil game, and it's a huge part of what made that game so tense. Walking into a save room and hearing that iconic save room theme unique to each game. That moment of respite to save your game, organize your items, and come up with a game plan is...
Especially because, like, things like that, it's like a lot of the Resident Evil things, like, you cannot save unless you're in a save room. It does, like, there's no auto save in some of them, especially in the older games. And that I remember being, like, incredibly tense when I was playing the second game. And like when I've watched playthroughs and stuff of like 4, it's like you can't save if you're not in the safe room. It's not gonna auto save for you, so you gotta keep going until you get somewhere safe, and it's so scary, especially for someone like me who dies a lot.
Such a huge part of these games. I'm just really glad they realized this and brought it back. Where's the item box? Have you seen it? It's like a wooden crate. It should be around here. Somebody is playing a sick fucking joke on me. Where is item box Resident Evil?
No, Ethan can just hold everything, right? Ethan can just hold it all, I believe. It's been a while since I've seen a playthrough of this. And again, I might be fully wrong about the save thing. From my recollection, you couldn't, like, you had to find a safe spot to save. But I think in this one, anyway, I think in this one, Ethan can just hold everything. He's got no limited inventory, which is a fun aspect of the Resident Evil games because it makes a little bit more sense that it would be, you know, that you would need to save some space. Who are you?
Bisley goes berserk.
Impressive breath
It's actually
control.
not that big of a deal. I mean, yeah, I wish it had item boxes, but it's not like Resident Evil 0 where I was dropping shit on the floor because I had nowhere to put it. Rarely that I find myself running out of space in this game, and that's due to another feature that we're not ready for. We'll talk about it later. If we're dropping complaints about the game, though, the lack of an FOV slider is embarrassing. Sometimes in my gameplay, you might see this little white dot. That is not an editing mistake. It is because I installed a mod to increase the FOV, and this is the flashlight. I am not playing a game on less than 100 FOV. I'm a grown man, for God's sake. And with my increased field of vision, I came across this little map reminding me of where the survivors were held up. All I had to do was get there. The way up is through a field of straw. Posted throughout are rudimentary statues of goat bone, effigies meant to ward off evil. This shit does not work. And
no, it does not!
Are the first normal people that we meet here. A woman tending to her father who's been badly injured by the Lycans. If we do nothing for these people, they're sure to be eaten alive by Lycans. The only way to help them is to get them inside Louiza's house.
Louisa! Open up, it's me, Elena!
Hi, Gun.
Stop shouting. You'll draw the monsters.
The survivors are just a little bit suspicious of outsiders, but thankfully, Elena vouches for us and we're taken into safety. From that entire village out there, these people, they're all that's left.
All that's left? There is no one left!
The villagers talk a little bit about Mother Miranda, and it's super weird, but it kind of paints a picture for what's going on here. Seems like Mother Miranda is a religious figure. You can find paintings and shrines all around the village of her. She is pretty much their goddess, and even though their goddess doesn't do anything about the werewolves killing them all, they still see fit to pray to her.
Great ones, hear our voice.
Give us this day our daily bread.
All on thee, within the endless storm.
Ritual and then have a blue 42. Feed a pickle pepper.
And in death, we give you glory.
Mother Miranda.
That was me the one time where like anytime I ever ended up in a Catholic church, that was me trying to figure out what to say. I was like, yes, and there's a prayer that we're doing now. Blessed are these thy gifts receiving. Thanks for food. I was like, that was anytime I ended up in a Catholic church, which didn't happen very often in my childhood, and never in my adulthood, but I had to invent some prayers on the fly. It was fun.
So glad we all knew the words there. The villagers, like the village, were designed to be stuck in time. Based on a mixture of gothic and modern imagery, outfits and hair from the 1960s were also used as reference in designing.
Cool.
It's very fitting for the setting. I just wish that their personalities were given as much thought as their clothes. They definitely have some character for the short time you interact with them, but that's the problem. They're on a screen for maybe 10 minutes. Having actual survivors that the player cares about could have been a huge opportunity to provide depth to the village. At one point, this may have even been the plan, considering that in the trailers, they show villagers just scattered around the village doing normal things. But sadly, none of that made it into...
that would have been really cool. Because, yeah, this game is all about just getting Rose. And, like, I feel like you almost care about the girl here, Elena or whatever, for, like, a second. But then, I don't know. That is something that I had never really kind of considered. But I think that could have made this game a little more interesting. If there's other people that you want to save. I kind of like that.
To the final game, and instead, the father that we just rescued goes full Team Jacob. We rush his daughter Elena into the other room to save her. Everyone else can suck it, I guess. It almost makes it seem like Elena's gonna be an important character, or a character at all. But after we solve some puzzles together, she just calls it quits. Decides she doesn't want to live anymore. Here, I'll help you out. Just take my hand.
Ethan, go.
What? What are you talking about? Don't just get up here.
Save your daughter.
Wait, no, it's like 4
There's time.
Come on. Wait, no. What is wrong with you? Stupid. Yeah, that was stupid. Those people are stupid. This is the lowest point in the game, which I would actually say is a good thing. It happened pretty fast, and everything beyond it is kind of awesome, especially because we get to go into the freaking vampire castle.
Yeah, we do.
Guys, has free Wi-Fi.
Not so fast! Connecting to a public Wi-Fi leaves you open to a security breach. Anyone can set up a public Wi-Fi, and connecting to it will allow whoever set it up to collect your data. But connecting with NordVPN, the sponsor of this video, will give you the extra layer of protection that you need. It'll also allow you to access things that may not be available where you live. So if, say, Lady Dimitrescu had my favorite website blocked, or it just wasn't available here, I could just connect to the thousands of servers across 60+ countries, masking my connection as being from the country of the server I connected to be able to access it again. Take Netflix, for example. They have a ton of content that's region locked. You might live in a country where the show Dexter isn't available, a tragedy easily fixed by using NordVPN to connect to North America, where you can give in to the dark passenger and watch all 8 glorious seasons.
There's a lot more seasons of Dexter than I thought.
YouTube Shorts. Go to nordvpn.com/Bizlychannel for a huge discount on a 2-year plan, plus 4 additional bonus months. It is risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Get it at nordvpn.com/Bizlychannel or click the link in the description below. A drawbridge leads you into this dingy cave that slowly fills out with ornate stonework. Just as you think you're about to go up and meet Dracula himself, a somehow even cooler guy shows up.
Yeah!
Didn't think anyone was left. You must be pretty tough. Huh.
Hey.
Who the fuck are you? Oh, you're not local. Even better.
Yep.
Why can't he Magneto? What the? The man dragging us is named Heisenberg. His voice might be familiar if you played Baldur's Gate 3. This is the guy who voices Astarion. And he is a star on this game. Clap it up. He's currently...
Oh, I get it. Astarion. Should I play Baldur's Gate 3? I mean, everyone tells me I should play Baldur's Gate 3. I'm already doing 2 D&D campaigns, and so like that could be interesting just to do like another one, but this one online. Maybe.
Taking us to the trial of Ethan Winters.
The man is of no real use to anyone else, and my daughters do so love entertaining foreigners. Furthermore, I can assure you, if you entrust the mortal to House Dimitrescu, my daughters and I shall deliver to you the finest parts of this slave
I want to
blood.
see. He's awake.
Mother, shut the fuck up!
In the center is Mother Miranda, and around her, the people bickering about who gets to kill you are the 4 lords of the village, a political alliance of noble families who control the mountainous region. I ripped that straight off the wiki. I didn't know.
Nice. See, okay, so I know that like that again, this is why it's a little bit confusing to the werewolf thing, and I just always assumed it was Mother Miranda, like that she needs Ethan for something. She doesn't really care if these guys kill him, but like she needs him in a specific place at some, in order to kill him properly or for whatever her plan is. I don't remember. It's been a long time. I just guess I assumed it was her. So this way, watching this will probably tell me that I was wrong about that. So.
How else to say it, like word for word. The 4 lords are Heisenberg, Lady Dimitrescu, Moreau, and the doll Angie.
Shut your damn hole! And don't be a sore loser. Go find your food somewhere else.
Quiet now, child. Adults are talking.
This little introduction for them all gives us a pretty good insight into each of their personalities. They're pretty much all treated as religious figures in the village, with Mother Miranda sitting at the head. And you can actually find this shrine in the village kind of visually depicting that. The game after this point is structured in sections based around these 4 lords. It's the same exact formula as Resident Evil 7, where they had distinct sections based around each of the bakers. Every section pushing the overall plot forward as much as it is a peek into the life of each antagonist. And my Resident Evil 7 video was just at 1 million views. Thank you for that. I talked about how I thought each of the bakers represented a different genre of horror movie. Most notably, Jack Baker being the embodiment of the slasher film. And Resident Evil 8, while less overt, does pretty much the same thing. But instead of representing horror genres, each of the 4 lords represents different monster movies.
Oh.
The Wolfman, Dracula, Frankenstein, the Invisible Man, the Mummy, Creature from the Black Lagoon. These creature features dominated the horror genre from the 1930s to the 50s. All part of the shared universal horror movie universe. Most of them shot in black and white, just making do with the technology of the time. It was this genre of film that brought us the on-screen depiction of the zombie. While some of the other creatures saw mainstream success, I think it's pretty clear the zombies kind of surpassed all of that and became a genre of its own, thus making shit like werewolves and Frankenstein seem weird in comparison. I think it was a bold move for Resident Evil to pull from these other less popular monsters for this game, but it's a decision I actually love. My real problem was that I went into this game expecting to enjoy it the same way I did Resident Evil 7, when it is something completely different that embraces the wacky nature of the monsters, still taking them seriously and keeping a semi-consistent tone, but not shying away from the weird shit. It's also not really presented in the same way as Resident Evil 7. Once it's decided that Heisenberg is the one who gets to kill Ethan, we get a chance to run away.
Let's see what you're doing. Ethan Winters.
The path forward is extremely narrow. There's no thought that needs to go into what route you'll take. No puzzles
straight
to solve. It is very much like a roller coaster ride. Specifically, this one at Disney Animal Kingdom, where there's a Yeti in a mountain.
Yeah, I remember that one. I liked the Yeti in the mountain
exactly like that. But that one you get to go backwards, and it is really scary. This
It's so much fun!
action vibe is coded into the DNA of Resident Evil 8. Yes, there are moments where survival horror and puzzle solving become important, but the majority of this game's DNA is built around being a fast-paced adventure on rails, as demonstrated here in this level. It's something that while researching for this game, I noticed a lot of hardcore Resident Evil fans did not resonate with. Mostly because this is completely different from what many would consider to be the identity of this franchise. Methodical, atmospheric puzzle games that require exploration and critical thinking skills to progress. I can partly see
critical thinking skills. None of that. Let's just go. Let's just have a romp. You know, that is what I do appreciate. I like action movies, and that's one of the things I like about them. It's like, I just want to turn off my brain for a little bit and watch like a singular badass just take out scores upon scores of people who are just there to get killed, like full on red shirts. Like, I don't know. I think it's just like, I don't care if this doesn't make sense. Like, I don't care if it's stupid. It's ridiculous. Let's turn off our brains for a little bit and have some fun. And I think maybe that's why I did like watching playthroughs and stuff of this game, because I found the story interesting, and you know, I like an adventure.
Sympathize with that perspective, because this is the exact opposite of that. This is some brain off goop that does not require thinking. But while I can sympathize, I wildly disagree. Expecting a game series, especially one as long-standing as Resident Evil, to retain the same core gameplay for every single iteration,
yeah, they'd have to change something.
Short-sighted. And it would go against everything those games were about in the first place. Resident Evil 1 is the game that built the survival horror genre. It coined the term survival horror.
Oh, that's cool.
Trying new things is what made this series great in the first place. Why now should they stop searching for something new, experimenting with ideas? Just because something is a sequel does not inherently make it a continuation of the original work. It may build off of it, but no matter what, a sequel will always be its own work, a piece that deserves to be judged on its own merits rather than exclusively held up in comparison.
Hi, Grossy.
I've been waiting for you, Mr. Winters.
How do you know my name?
Anyone has heard of the likes of you. A hero searching for his daughter. Though I must say, that castle arouses suspicion.
Thank you for that. I'm really right here.
And so do you.
I am but a humble merchant.
Here?
Oh, forgive my manners. Call me the Duke.
Like he said, this is the Duke. I didn't like him at first, but after seeing him a few times, I understand why he won Streamer of the Year. The Duke acts as the shopkeeper of Resident Evil 8, a concept taken from Resident Evil 4, but stuffed full of Big Macs. He just kind of appears in various places around the map, selling you things like ammo and healing items. Oh, and also upgrades to your inventory space that make it so big you can hold pretty much everything.
That's what it was thinking. That's what I was thinking, that you can just hold everything as Ethan. I forgot that you have to deal with the Duke for that, but
I was talking about. He's one of my favorite characters from the game for sure, and that probably has a lot to do with how he's voiced. Aaron LaPlante does a really good job of bringing this eerie yet warm vibe to the character that makes every interaction with him fun. Now, the Duke shows up just in time before the first section begins. Like I said before, the game is broken up into 4 different sections for each of the lords, and the first one doesn't truly begin until we enter the castle of Lady Dimitrescu.
I do love this castle. I don't know what he's gonna say about this castle, but I love this castle.
Now, this castle should tell you everything you need to know about what monster inspired Lady Dimitrescu. Bears. It is my absolute favorite location, design-wise, in the entire game. I wish more of the game took place in this castle. I could have spent 10 hours here alone. The carpets, the furniture, the walls, the candelabras, the metalwork, it is all a love letter to Gothic architecture. It is so fucking cool, it makes me want to start punching things. Because of the game's linear nature, it's not as open as you would expect, which would have been cool to see. But what it lacks in open level design, it makes up for in atmosphere, attention to detail, and vampire women who skewer you and drag you around. Now, this plays a fundamental role in making me feel things. The 3 daughters drag us into the room with their mother,
you and everybody else.
Dimitrescu.
Mother? I bring you fresh prey.
You are so kind to me, daughters. Now, let's take a look at him.
Hello.
Well, Ethan Winters.
Based on the monster Dracula, Lady Dimitrescu is a bloodthirsty vampire living in her Eastern European castle. Her design is pulled straight from the 1930s, and if you noticed, she big. That's because she's also inspired by the Japanese legend of the 8-foot-tall spirit. And the daughters themselves are also based on the wives of Dracula. And they're all meant to represent the femme fatale archetype, or the hot girl horror. Why is it so hard to wiggle my eyebrows? Am I wiggling them? Am I doing it right now? Beautiful women who use their charm to get you so wrapped around
That's something you have to practice.
that you'd pretty much let them kill you. Can she do that to me? These vampires chain Ethan up in the room and prepare to drain him of his blood. And so naturally, he dismembers himself to get out of it. And if you're wondering how he survives this, then you have clearly forgotten the Resident Evil item that is just a bottle of heal juice. Anytime Ethan gets hurt, he just pours that stuff on and keeps trucking. The goal right now really is to find Rose. And so that means exploring the castle. Now, it's nothing like the other Resident Evil games, but there are still some fairly straightforward puzzles to solve throughout the castle, and I actually like them a lot. Specifically the one where you use the game physics to light the torch. They're simple, but you still have to think about it for at least half a second. So it's engaging, but it still keeps up this rapid fire pace.
And you don't have to sit there and think about like things that they don't look. I'm not good at the thinking outside the box. I like the games to tell me what I need to do. Either that or just like fully open world and then it doesn't really matter and I can do whatever I want to. But like, tell me what I need to do. I'm not good necessarily with the puzzles and stuff. Never finished Portal.
Resident Evil 8 was a little more open-ended, but really in this case, just because this castle is so cool, I really wanted to go around and explore, find different things, but there just wasn't a lot to find. The coolest thing here is the winery, which gives you some insight into what they actually do here, which is make some killer wine. And scattered around the castle are different journals that will tell you the story of Lady Dimitrescu. Her name is Alcina, and while her heritage traces back to one of the 4 founders of this village, she originally didn't even live here. She was lured here by the cult leader Mother Miranda and taken down to a crypt beneath the village cemetery and implanted surgically with a parasite called the Cadeau. This caused her body to mutate, giving her power, causing her to grow inhumanly tall, and making her practically immortal. But the problem is she inherited a rare blood disease when she was born, one that even the parasite couldn't cure. Though she lived forever, she would require regular supplies of human blood to stay healthy. She then took ownership of the castle, as was her birthright, and began running the vineyard, as well as conducting her own experiments on the Cadeau parasite, specifically on 3 girls, who she then claimed as her own daughters. You can see pinned to her chest are 3 roses, one for each daughter who has a rose tattooed on their forehead. The 4 then lived here for the next 70 years, extracting the blood from maids and combining it with grapes to create Sanguis Virginis, a traditional Dimitrescu family wine.
Oops, he's got it. This is cool to like kind of go back and like watch to refresh my memory and also to like dive a little deeper into the lore, because again, when I watch a playthrough, the people that I watch don't always dive that deep into all the lore. Or if they did, I've watched it so long ago that I don't remember, and there's usually things that are missed. So this is fun for me to get to like go and just like get a little bit more insight into the lore, and I like it.
Okay. You know what? It tastes good, whatever. While the upper part of the castle is well put together, the dungeon underneath is...
I mean, there's blood sausage. That's a thing, right? People eat... Yes?
the exact opposite. Hungry feral vampires lumber through these tight spaces, forcing you into combat. I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, but the combat for this game is actually pretty good. There's not much to it, but the guns feel tight and good to use. The sound design is great, and overall, it is definitely an improvement over the Resident Evil 7 slow, sluggish gameplay. Here, it's a lot faster, and in some cases, it's too fast. Like in the case of switching weapons, it almost looked like Ethan had 3 hands.
Yep. Oh, hi.
Your bullets cannot harm. You stupid man thing!
The three daughters act as mini-bosses within the castle, and their fights are pretty mindless, in my opinion. Their mutations make them vulnerable to cold, and we're in a frozen mountain, so all you gotta do is crack a window and they start cracking. The only really—
I mean, like, real vampires, but like traditional vampires are like sunlight is what gets them, and you know, there's sun every single day. I feel like it makes a certain amount of sense to have like a pretty large weakness like that, that is just super common, because you know, like, it would be really difficult otherwise. I think it makes sense.
The threatening one here is Lady Dimitrescu, and after you kill one of her daughters, oh, she gets real mad.
Wink!
Ah, shit!
At this point, you'll be hunted through the castle by Lady Dimitrescu while you try to find your way. It's a feature that's become pretty common in the Resident Evil games, where the big bad is constantly hunting you. It works very well in Resident Evil 2, 3, and 7, but here, I just find Lady Dimitrescu is too slow and too big to really do anything to you. She gotta be pushing at least 325. It's hard to get up and moving at 325. She also has to crouch through doorways, so there's no opportunity for getting jump scared, and you have ample opportunity to just run away. In the main room, there are 4 statues with slots for masks to be placed. The rest of your time in the castle will be spent finding these masks and killing the other daughters, which is fun for what it is, but nothing too crazy. It doesn't get good until you find all the masks and open the door. It leads out to a coffin containing a knife that the knife that kills vampires, I guess.
Vampire
a fabled vampire killing knife.
Yes.
I find this so funny. I don't know if you've ever seen Supernatural, but they do this thing on that show where there's always a weapon that kills the exact thing they need to kill. Like, there's the angel knife, and then there's the kill everything gun.
Yep.
And then they have the kill the specific most things spear. After a certain point, that shit was hilarious. Something about
it did just kind of keep going, didn't it? It's been a long time, like, and that some of those were from later seasons of Supernatural, which I've only seen like once. As opposed to earlier seasons of Supernatural, which I've seen multiple times. Because the first 5 seasons were very good, so I've seen that more than once. But like the rest of it, I've only seen one time. But I guess, you know, they did have some. There was always a thing. There's always a MacGuffin that you had to get in order to beat the thing, and then you have the cult, which could just kill literally everything.
About finding the knife that kills vampires just reminded me of that and got me chuckling.
That's fair.
It works. Lady Dimitrescu gets stabbed, which doesn't kill her right away, but it does give us a chance, thus starting the first true boss fight.
Bye, knife. Would have been nice to keep a hold of that. Hi, Dragon Mommy.
Lady Dimitrescu turns into a large dragon, harkening back to the original Dracula myths. The name Dracula even coming from the Romanian word for dragon being drac. Almost like a centaur, her bottom half takes the form of an entire dragon, while her top half remains as kind of like a rider. Shooting her body does more damage, so aiming there is usually the play.
Okay,
it's hard to make a boss fight like this really work, but making her a flying enemy and giving her fairly varied attack patterns keeps the entire thing engaging, while also being an amazing set piece. Smashing through the castle stones.
It is pretty good.
Entire clips into her face. It is fun and paced very well.
Killer. I do like that she's like, she knows she's dying, so she's like, you know what? I am just going to try and take you down with me as much as possible. I use my last words to just dishearten you.
Curse you.
Bye.
With Lady Dimitrescu dead, we find this jar and a pathway leading out. The marketing for this game centered so heavily around this boss and this castle that I was certain this was not the end. But this is really the last we see of Lady Dimitrescu. I'm curious to see what you guys think about this in the comments. For me, it's disappointing because I felt like she had so much more character potential, especially to be a foil to Ethan. We're going around killing her daughters and she played a role in kidnapping ours. There could have been moments where they spoke on a parental level, on a human level.
That could have been cool.
Adversaries at least understood each other.
And like the thing too is like she and Heisenberg are like the really, really interesting of the bosses. Like Moreau and the doll Angie or whatever, like they're all right. I mean, Moreau's not interesting really at all. I'm sorry, I just did not care about him. Angie was kind of interesting, like the Bonaventure or whatever her name was, like that was all right. But like Lady Dimitrescu and Heisenberg are like the really interesting ones, and I really wish we'd spent a little more time with Dimitrescu.
I also think it's just a missed opportunity to not have opened up that beautiful castle and let us explore it for a little longer. I'm all for a fast-paced game, but it almost feels like a disservice to the environment designers to have their hard work be nothing but a blur in your peripheral as you scream past it. There's not a dull moment in the entire section, but it did feel cut short, which ultimately just left me wanting more.
Fair.
There you are. I had a feeling you would pop up here.
Oh, what up, fat boy? Hey, castle was kind of a dead end.
Is that so? I assume you've picked up something of value.
No, not really. Just a jar.
Just a jar.
You have your daughter right in your own hands.
No, this is a jar. I'm looking for baby.
A closer look.
I love his props. He's done such a good job.
The flask seems to contain her head.
Wait, stop. You're saying this is Rose? Rose has been separated into 4 different pieces and contained within these jars. Killing Dimitrescu got us the first piece, and it's safe to assume the other lords have the rest.
Sick. All right. I do enjoy, I've gone to like the video, and I'm already subscribed to his channel, so it's fine. He's somebody that like I've watched on my own for fun, and you know, I enjoy his stuff. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. And if you want to see more, go ahead, let me know. If you don't, tell me that you want to see more by, liking and subscribing and telling me in the comments, then I will probably just watch them on my own whenever he posts them, because this is a fairly new video. So thanks again. Let me know what you'd like me to watch next, and I will see you there. Bye.